how I rediscovered the Second World War. Well, last year I was on the beaches in Normandy doing the standard history thing, looking around. Did a Go Ruck event, which was great. Spent time in some Églises, was on various beaches. It was absolutely superb. One evening I was sat down outside the hotel that I was staying at, and was having a WhatsApp conversation with my mate Charlie. He's a Kentuckian, lives in Florida. And much like many Americans do, wants to come to Europe because he wants to go where some of his family members have been during the Second World War. So he said, in particular, about his great uncle. So I was interested in this, and listening to Charlie, he told me about it. And he said that his great uncle, James Matthew Shablik, was in the 318th Infantry Regiment within the 80th Infantry Division. I had never heard of the 80th Division. They were not one of the ones that came to mind, and I thought I knew quite a bit about military history. I was wrong. I didn't know about the 80th. So we had a conversation. He said that he was killed on the 28th of December 1944 near Bastogne, and that was kind of it. And it was like, our conversation was over. You know, we were a few hours ahead, so obviously, it was, you know, I had to go to bed. The next day I got up and Googled what the 80th Infantry Division badge looked like. So I found out what it looked like. You know, the 3 blue peaks on it, on a shield with sort of like a khaki background and a white outline. And that day went into a military shop, which there's a few in Normandy, as you can well imagine. And I found 2 badges. This is one of them. 80th Infantry Division shoulder sleeve insignia. I bought both. I paid over the odds because, well, quite frankly, it was worth it, because I wanted to get one for myself and one for Charlie, which I did. And went down to the beach, again, thinking nothing more of it, went down to the beach and took a photo of both of the badges on the beach. Sent it to Charlie. There you go, mate. I'm going to send you one of these badges. Both of our badges have been on a beach in Normandy. It was the best I could do. It was a gesture to Charlie. I was like, mate, this is the best I can do. You can't get over it at the moment. And a little later in the day, I did a bit more digging, a little bit of history on the 80th, because, well, I had a badge now, I'm invested. Only to find that I had taken a picture of our badges of the 80th at exactly where they came ashore in 1944. Okay. Now I'm invested. So I then was like, right, I've got more to do. I then started looking at who can help me, who can guide me, because I don't know anything about these guys. I know nothing. So I reached out to a guy called Andy Adkins, and he's an author. He's published a couple of books. He's been involved in publishing some books, and he's he's a bit of a force of nature in the history of the 80th. And I happened upon him. I managed to get a hold of his email address and emailed him, and he was exceptionally helpful. And he was sending me loads of information, stuff about the morning reports, James's casualty card. He sent me so much stuff. Now, I couldn't have asked for more. He was just like belt feeding me this stuff. It was absolutely wonderful. And then I found out that he had a book published which is about the 317th Infantry Regiment of the 80th Infantry Division, and it was his father's, and it's called You Can't Get Much Closer Than This. And this is a truly glorious book, and when you read it, it's so good. And the phrase, you can't get much closer than this, a lot of people think it's got to do with battle and stuff like that. It has. However, this is more specific about the combat infantry badge, which American infantry soldiers get through their training. And that's what he was talking about, being, you can't get much closer than this, which I completely understand. So, further on, I then started looking into the 80th, and Charlie's helped me out loads as well, Andy's helped me out loads, and various other people have helped me out. And the more I look into it, the more I find, the more I do. So I managed to get hold of the small little pamphlet about the 80th that was written after the war, and I'll go to that in a separate video because this is just great. another thing that I found out. Now, I read this when it was republished, but I managed to get an original one. It's a short guide to Great Britain for American service personnel. And as a Brit reading this, there's not a lot that's changed. We're still fundamentally the same, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. And again, I'll do another video on this. But these are the things that I've discovered. This is why I'm so keen to show this, because I then went November last year to the Mosul River Crossing Association in Thionville and to Metz, and I met people who were. So Craig Charlton, his father was in the 10th Armoured Division, which was involved in that, and the 10th Armoured Division also held Bastogne prior to the 101st turning up, so they were holding it. If they hadn't held those corners, Bastogne would have fallen earlier. I never knew that. I had absolutely no idea. I met people who had relatives in the 95th Infantry Division, the Iron Men of Metz, and how they fought through Metz and the stuff they did. They, along with the 80s, were some of the divisions that liberated concentration camps. I had no idea. And there's a whole thing dedicated to those units that, liberated concentration camps. Then also I found out about the 5th Infantry Division. Yeah, I bought a lot of badges. The 5th Infantry Division and how they worked together, again, with the Mosul River Crossing Association. It's absolutely fantastic. But then I started looking into other things, and the Purple Heart. What I found out about the Purple Heart, how it was the first medal, I think, that the Americans issued that could be issued to any rank. And I think is the oldest surviving medal that the Americans issue as well. And there's also, and please, if you know, correct me if I'm wrong, because that's the way I learn, if the most of the medals, and I don't think it's up to the Global War on Terror, were all made during the Second World War because they were anticipating so many casualties when the Americans were going to go into Japan. That never happened, so that they kept them. And so, that medal I just showed you could have been made in the Second World War, and it's one of the things that I've got. It's just amazing. So, other things that I discovered. Well, let's just see. So, the badges themselves, even those are interesting because these are two different examples. So, two different 80th badges. You notice how these are darker blue? And if you look on the back, that one's got white stitching. This is a green-backed one, so that's made by a different manufacturer. So even that, there's subtle nuances within the badges. There's different sorts. There's one that I want to get, and it's like a horizontal weave. And there is the unicorn of 80th Infantry Division badges. It's got a black background to it. It's got a black background on the badge. That shoulder sleeve insignia was made in Great Britain. And if anybody out there's got one and they want to part with it, I'll look after it. I promise. I will just cherish it. It's brilliant. Some of the other things that I've been really fortunate to discover since I've started this journey was, about the 77th Infantry Division, Desmond Dorse and Hacksaw Ridge. I knew about it from seeing the film, and then I read more into it. It's utterly incredible. This one here, Stuart Hills, By Tank into Normandy. This is wonderful. It's a book, and he's Sherwood Foresters Rangers Yeomanry, and they took duplex drive tanks ashore in Normandy, and they were, a reserve unit. They were a yeomanry because that's what yeomanry units are, and they went ashore in D-Day. His DD tank sunk. I never realised that they called them Donald Duck tanks until recently. Absolutely wonderful. And then the fact that I found out about the duplex drive tanks led me to the 79th Infantry Division, 79th Armoured Division, which was Hobart's division. So Hobart's Funnies, that's where it came from. It's utterly incredible. And I then found out about, so this is one of my favourite ones. So, this is Audrey Byrne. She was in the Women's Royal Air Force during the 1950s. Audrey was a radar officer, but Audrey was doing a course. Now, there's Audrey. Anybody recognise that lady there? That's Nancy Wake. I have had the great pleasure of interviewing Audrey. I still need to edit that because it needs to work, and I need to do it properly because she deserves a good editing. Is Nancy Wake. The White Mouse, that's how the Gestapo called it. That's Nancy Wake. She was there. It's just incredible. And then obviously looking into Nancy Wake, I discovered the SOE. And then I found about magnetic razor blades that they used to help escape. And, downed airmen used them and SOE agents used them. And there's just so much stuff. Utterly incredible. The more I look into this, the more I find I have rediscovered World War II history in such a way, and it's so overwhelmingly incredible. I want to share it. This is why I started this, and this is why I do this. I want to share. And if anybody's got any suggestions of things that I can go and look at, I regularly go across to Europe and look into that. I've got some plans for Europe later this year. I'm hopefully going to be going into somewhere in Germany next month, looking at things. And if you've got any suggestions, please let me know. Comment below. Just let me know. And if there's anything that you found interesting that I've done and you want to see more, let me know, because I am keen to share the knowledge. Knowledge weighs nothing, and I'm willing to share, and I cannot wait to do my next video.